In this video, we are going to cover Chapter 3 on presentation design. So we're going to first start off with illustrations and infographics. One of the most important tools that you use in your presentation is shapes. So shapes are an illustration or a diagram that can add to the idea that's being presented in your PowerPoint. One type of visual element is a shape, a geometric or a non-geometric object that is used to create an illustration or to highlight information. You can put a quote inside of your shape to call attention to it. You can also combine a series of different shapes to create more complex images. So I mentioned the word infographics. I think we're all familiar with what an infographic is, but in case you're not, this slide explains what it is. So it's basically a shortened term for information graphics. So infographics is a visual representation of data or knowledge. You might have already seen infographics and shared them without knowing it's an infographic. Infographics basically use shapes to present complex data or knowledge in an easily understood visual representation. So instead of having, a long report to read, the infographic highlights the key points of a report in a visual format, so the audience can take away the most important aspects of that report. So we're going to talk about PowerPoint drawing tools. PowerPoint drawing tools are used to create lines and shapes, which are really the basis for infographics. You're going to learn to modify the shapes used for drawn images to meet your needs. You can enhance the shapes by adding effects like 3D, shadow, glow, warp, bevel, and other effects. So these effects are, of course, accessible through your style galleries. And now I'd like you to please watch the video tutorial that shows you how to create shapes and also resize these shapes. And when you're done, please come back to this PowerPoint. Next, I'm going to talk about the lock drawing mode feature. So when you're drawing shapes, the shapes command deactivates the selected shape every time after you draw it. So this could be really annoying because you're forced to reselect the shape each time you want to use it, right? So what you can do here is activate the lock drawing mode feature. Then you can add several shapes of the same type without having to select shape again each time. For example, if you're drawing 3 different, kinds of rectangles, and you can just lock drawing mode, and then you can click on the rectangle shape, lock drawing mode, and then you can go on and draw your 3 rectangles instead of having to select rectangle again each time after you're done drawing a rectangle. Instead of having to click that 3 times, you could just go on and draw all the rectangles you want until you're done with it. So please watch the video tutorial on how to activate the lock drawing mode. And I also go on to show you how to create a call out, how to size the handle, so change the shape of your call outs and shapes, and also how to constrain the shape, meaning how to lock the ratio. So if you're if you drew a square with the rectangle tool, how you can enlarge it, make it bigger, while still making sure that it remains a square, a 1-to-1 ratio, instead of stretching it one way or another. And the next video after that, we take a look at creating straight lines and curved lines, and also using these lines as connectors to connect 2 separate shapes. And when you're done with those 2 videos, we continue on with the flowchart. So a flowchart shows a sequence to be followed or a plan containing steps. The connected lines join these shapes in the flowchart. The flowchart sequence includes a start and end points as shown in oval shapes. Steps are shown in rectangular shapes, and decisions to be made are shown in diamond shapes. You can use color in your flowchart, but make sure you're consistent when you apply the color, and don't add too many. Don't make it a rainbow. Use colors wisely and usually to emphasize information. You have connectors with arrows that demonstrate the order in which the sequence should be followed to accomplish the goal, and each shape in a flowchart has a label in which you can add text to it. We also look at creating and modifying freeform shapes. So what is a freeform shape? A freeform shape is a shape that can be used to create customized shapes using both the curved and straight line segments. It lets you draw whatever you want, like you would draw on a pencil, with a pencil on a sheet of paper. Of course, it's easier to draw with a pencil on a sheet of paper because you have more accuracy. But you can still kind of do that on the screen, and you can always modify it later. The freeform shape is comprised of straight line segments and curved segments, and one use for the freeform tool could be to trace a picture. Okay, so can you please watch the video tutorial on using the freeform tool, and when you're done, please come back to this video. Next, we're going to talk about applying quick styles. A quick style is a combination of different formats that can be selected from the quick style gallery and then applied to the shape or other objects. So options in the gallery include things like edges, shadows, line styles, gradients, and 3D effects. So please watch the video tutorial on applying the quick style. We also take a look at changing the shape fill. You also look at using the eyedropper tool to select colors, and also using image fill, okay? So filling the shape with an image. And the next video tutorial after that is to do with texture fill, so filling the shape with a form of texture, filling the shape with a gradient, and also creating your own custom gradient. And yet another video tutorial would look at lines. Has to do with outlines of a shape and just a singular line itself, and also the arrowheads on a line. And another video tutorial looks at the shape effects. And after that, we are done the first segment. The second segment, we look at smart art and word art. So smart art, what is that? It's a feature that enables you to create a visual representation of information. You can type the text of your message in one of these many existing layouts. The resulting graphic is really professional looking, much more professional than if an untrained designer or a student who has no design experience was to create it yourself. So if you don't feel comfortable with your design skills, or you just want to save time and you expect a high quality professional looking presentation, then you can use the smart art. You can convert existing text into a smart art diagram to convey some information. Okay, so first of all, before you use the smart art, you have to choose the diagram type. There are many categories of diagrams. There's list, process, cycle, hierarchy, relationship, there's matrix, pyramid, picture, and office.com. So think about what category would work for you. Are you making a shopping list? Are you showing the process of creating a widget? Are you showing the life cycle of a bat? Are you showing the hierarchy and an organization? Are you showing the relationship between different animals in an animal kingdom? So you have to think about what you are trying to show with your diagram and then choose the appropriate diagram type. Right? So if you go to your textbook, it explains each diagram type, and please refer to that. And then you can watch the video tutorials where it teaches you how to create a smart art diagram and also to use the smart art text pane. Next, we're going to look at modifying smart art. So you can modify these smart art diagrams with the same tools used for other shapes and text boxes. You can reposition or resize a smart art diagram by dragging its borders. You can modify the text in the text pane, just like if it was in a placeholder, and you can modify the text in the shape itself. You can just go click inside of it. If you need an additional shape, click the insertion point in the text pane at the beginning or the end of the text where you want to add the shape, and then press enter. Okay. So another method of adding shapes is to use the add shape command. So that's quite a mouthful, so not to worry. Just watch the video tutorial on how you can add a shape, change theme colors, use quick styles, change the layout, change the smart art type, and convert text to diagram. So all this for the smart art. Next, we're going to look at word art. So you might want to call attention to a text on a slide by using word art. What does word art do? It uses special effects that's based on the text rather than the shape. So the special effects apply to only the text, not the shape that's surrounding the text. So not the text box that's surrounding the text, but rather the text itself. So the drop shadow will apply to the text, not the container holding the text. Okay? PowerPoint provides a gallery of different word art styles that has a variety of text styles to choose from. You can convert existing text into word art, or you can create a word art object and then type text. So 2 ways to create it. The colors that result really depend on the theme that you have selected, and try not to change this color too much because there's a good reason why a certain color is part of a theme. The designer of this theme has chosen all these colors very carefully to make sure that they all work well together. So please watch the video tutorial on how to create word art and how to modify word art. Finally, we're going to look at the third part of this chapter, which is object manipulation. Okay, so as you add objects to your slides, you might want to manipulate them by arranging them differently on the slide or recoloring them. Maybe you have different shapes created and you just want to align all of them to the left edges or arrange them by their center points, or change the order of the shapes. You might have inserted a drawn image and then find that the colors used in the image don't match the colors of the theme. You might have added a drawn image that includes something that you don't want. So in this section, we're going to learn how to modify objects. So you're going to learn how to isolate objects, flip and rotate objects, group and ungroup objects, recolor an image. You can also determine the order of the objects and align objects to one another and to the slide as well. So let's look at modifying objects first. Many of the images are made from a series of combined shapes. You can modify existing drawings by breaking them into individual shapes. You can remove pieces that you don't need. You can change or recolor shapes. You can rotate shapes. You can also combine shapes from several objects to create a new object. So please watch the video tutorial on modifying objects. About resizing objects. Resizing is the most common modification that you would do. It's important to know for you can resize an object very easily, but in case you need to do a very precise resizing method, maybe you would have a specification that a certain image must be 2 by 2 inches. Now you need to be specific instead of just kind of eyeballing it and then dragging it to resize it. So please watch the video tutorial on resizing objects and how you can do this if you have specific measurements that you have to follow. We'll also look at flipping and rotating objects and also merging shapes. Next, we talk about grouping and ungrouping objects. So a drawn object is usually created in pieces. Okay, so if you think of a car is like the body, and then you have one object as a wheel, one object as another wheel, maybe another object as the window on the car, another object as the exhaust coming out from it. Okay, so there are many different objects all grouped together to create one final image. So these images can be ungrouped or broken apart, so you can modify and delete the individual pieces. So maybe you want to make the wheels bigger, so you can ungroup it, click on the wheel, make it bigger. Okay, so grouping enables multiple objects to move as though they're a single object. So, when the person's done drawing the car, you want to group them. So in case you want to make the whole car bigger or move it to the right side of the page, then you can do it by selecting just the car, but not all. It's not having to select all the individual pieces and moving it, right? Grouping is different than merging a shape. Okay, grouping just makes it easier to move the group object or apply formatting. Maybe you want to apply a style or a color to all the pieces that are grouped together. But merging, on the other hand, creates a new object altogether, right? So please watch the video tutorial on how to ungroup. And next, please watch the video tutorial on changing colors. After that, let's talk about arranging objects and the selection pane. Sometimes there's so many objects placed together that it's difficult to select the individual that you need on the slide. So select the object by using the selection pane then. Okay, the selection pane is found in the Arrange group on the Format tab. Don't worry, the video tutorial will show you where it is. Basically, the selection pane is very helpful when you're working with complex images comprised of many overlapping objects. Like if you have 58 objects in this group and then you ungroup it and it's so many, but without the selection pane, it might be very difficult to select it. So in a selection pane, every object displays on the pane and you can click through the objects to identify them. So please watch the video tutorial on the selection pane. Next, we're going to look at ordering objects. You can layer objects layer shapes by placing them under or on top of another. So the order of the layers is called the stacking order. PowerPoint adds shapes or other objects in a stacking order as you add them to a slide. Okay, so the last shape that you place is always at the top and always highest on the stacking order. Drawn shapes are comprised of shapes that have been stacked and rearranged. So once you ungroup an image and modify it, you may need to change the stacking order. You can open a selection pane to see the order in which the objects have been placed. Remember that the topmost in the stacking order is at the very top. Okay? So now please watch the video tutorial on the order of objects. And when you're done, please come back to this video. And finally, let's talk about aligning objects. So dragging an object to position it on the slide is a very easy way to position objects when you use the Smart Guides. The Smart Guides display when you drag an object on your slide to quickly align objects. So if you have one rectangle and then you create another rectangle and you move it around, you'll see that a guide starts like a line. A guide is like a line that starts appearing and sometimes helps you snap it into place so it's aligned with the first object. Okay, PowerPoint also has rulers, a grid, and drawing guides that help you complete the aligning process quickly. So rulers are what provides you with the visual cues to help you keep your objects aligned. They also enable you to see the size of an object and the distance between the shapes as well. PowerPoint provides both a horizontal and a vertical ruler. So in the last video tutorial, please watch how to view and hide a ruler, how to view, change, and activate grids, and how to align and distribute objects. And then you would have come to the end of this lesson for Chapter 3.